All right, recording is on. Okay, so thank you again for taking the morning to talk with us about this project. I have been compiling information that I have from a few resources. I did a little research at the very beginning of 2020, so over a year ago, at the Virginia Room, and found two good books that I thought covered um, African American history in Fairfax County broadly. Not specific regions, but across the county. And you'll see in my spreadsheet there. They have their separate columns for things that I identified out of those two books. I have not been able to get back into the Virginia Room since. I'm sure there is a lot more resources that I didn't look at because at the time I wasn't necessarily planning on doing this survey. I was just sort of looking at information. Not, with no plans to conduct this particular survey. So I took notes, but they're not very good. I can't wait to get back into the Virginia Room to, and the clock is ticking. So I think it's like 10 days before they open. Yeah. But from that and from the Heritage Resource Management Plan that we have, which has two contexts written pre-Civil War and then not necessarily post-Civil War, but Reconstruction settlements that were formed. So those are the two contexts that the Heritage Resource Management Plan outlines. And from those, I've captured communities, and that again is in the spreadsheet. And then I don't know, since Esther, you were just mentioned your church. Ramona Carroll was the interfaith community liaison with the county. She no longer has that position, but she held it for a long time. And she has done a lot of research on African American churches in the county. So she put together a PowerPoint, which she provided me. And then from her PowerPoint, I identified the churches that she had and the schools. The schools, though, she didn't have any indication whether they were standing or not. So I just have a list of African American schools that she identified. So that's what's on there on the spreadsheet, and then the inventory. So those are my four sources. Those two books from the Virginia Room, the Inventory of Historic Sites, and Ramona Carroll's PowerPoint presentation that she provided me with schools and churches.
Okay. And for schools, Jeff Clark has a complete list of all of the old schools, and he identifies them because early on they were called colored schools. So yes. He actually has a chart with those schools on there, and then he labels which ones are African American schools.
Oh, that's great.
That is. And Phyllis, do you have that? I'm just curious.
I actually have it on display in the museum, but I don't have it as a digital copy. So I can contact him and get him to send it.
I was just going to say, if I reach out to Jeff Clark, I can provide it to you. I'll let him know that I'm giving it to you.
Because he's provided it for some teachers. When we had the teacher workshop last year, he provided it to the teachers.
Now, who is Jeff Clark?
So it wouldn't be a problem. Jeff Clark is a Fairfax County Public Schools employee. I'm not sure what his title is, but he works with Channel 16 also, and he's gone around the county, and where he found schools that were still standing, he actually filmed those schools.
Okay.
On YouTube, he has videos called Schools of Yesteryear.
Oh.
And I'm not sure exactly how many, but I know that he has our site listed. We're number 12. But if you just do YouTube Schools of Yesteryear, Jeff Clark, it'll come up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think he's the unofficial public schools historian for Fairfax.
He has a whole presentation that he, in 2019, he was actually doing speaking engagements, that presentation. And it's one that is really fascinating to most people because they don't know the story and of education in terms of African Americans. And so in his presentation, he follows the woman who was a student living in Bailey's Crossroads, but attending the Manassas school. And so he takes you on the trip that when she left her house, how long it took her to get to Manassas and the stops that were made. So he has like a little arrow that like you're riding the bus with her. To
that is interesting. That would be great for the conference.
Well, I think Lynn attended one of his presentations where he did that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's fascinating. The people in the audience, when he did it at Seidenstricker School the Saturday that I attended, and people were just amazed at the history for the education.
That's
fantastic. He tells the whole story. He tells how bad it was for the Black schools and how the county wasn't supporting Black schools.
Okay.
So
I am here.
Yes, hi. I was just about to say,
Okay.
I think Anne's joined us. I found you as an attendee and I unmuted you. So sorry that you're having that difficulty.
I know.
Good morning.
Interesting. Good morning.
So, Anne, you won't be able to see the visuals, but I did send you the spreadsheet ahead of time. Did you get that?
Got a chance to review it. And
Fantastic. Okay, great. Well, the one thing that I wanted to start off with is just showing you a map that I found in the Heritage Resource Management Plan. It is the closest thing that I have to showing where the African American communities were on a map. But again, it's old. So let me call that up and share my screen, and I'll show it to you all, just so you get a sense of. The resolution's terrible though, so sorry about that. Let's see. No, you're not good. This is not good. You can see it. But it was off this map that I pulled the names of the names of the communities and put them into the spreadsheet that I sent. But the map is terrible. I'll tell you what, I'll resend it. I'll send it to you as an attachment, and we don't have to talk about it now. Sorry.
okay.
Just so you can see what I'm looking at. But I think, Phyllis, the map that you have is the one that's going to be the best resource for what we want to do. And that is to go across the county and survey these sites where we know there was African American presence, and see what remains.
Okay, I think we've got to use the one that I'm going to bring to you. That's that's African American history from 1860 to 1900, and then Mary has done communities.
Okay.
In the list that she just sent out.
Okay.
So I think we have to put the two together.
Okay. And I'm sorry, the map, it was 1860 to
1860 to 1900. It's actually landowners, churches, and schools.
Yes. Okay. I think that'll be a terrific resource though. And schools.
And then Esther's group did one. Esther, the brochure that you have when you early on when you were came on the commission.
Yes, I'll have to send that to you. It's a leaflet and it's slick and shiny. So I'll have to maybe scan it and send it to.
Okay, that would be great, Esther.
Mhm.
And you, Phyllis, you mentioned, Esther, what group produced it?
Delta Sigma Theta Fairfax County group, as well as the Visitor Center, the I forgot
Visit
what
Fairfax?
the yes, the county
Okay.
visitors association or whatever they first called it.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
great, thank you. I'm wondering if Visit Fairfax has it too.
they might.
They might.
They
Yeah.
might.
But just to save you the trouble of scanning it in, I can check with Patrick Lennon and see if they have it.
Yeah.
Especially, yeah.
It was done in the 90s, like about 98.
Okay, great, thank you.
Uh-huh.
And Mary is the information that Mary's pulled together, is this for the African American Initiative? Is she just
Yes.
okay, naming communities? Okay. Got it. And Phyllis, you can send that to me.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah,
She just sent that yesterday.
that's what you were. Okay.
Now, one church that has history in Fairfax County ended up in Loudoun County by some far-reaching imagination. Oak Grove would not be on our list currently because it's like on the edge of Herndon,
Yeah.
and it ended up in Loudoun County presently.
Right. Okay. So, Nicole, do you recognize that? That's that interjurisdictional review that we just got yesterday.
Oh, that's why it seems so familiar. Okay.
Oak Grove Baptist Church.
Yeah. There's a development that's going in adjacent to it.
Yes, all
Yeah.
around it.
Yeah. So we just got it for an interjurisdictional review, development review.
Okay. Are there others? I've been curious.
Other development reviews?
Other churches that we know of that might have been out there that got put into another county or another jurisdiction. You know
Not
of any, Phyllis?
No, not that I know of.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of either. I just happened to, you said Oak Grove and it just looked at it yesterday. So it was just coincidental. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share the spreadsheet, put it up on the screen. And I guess I'm the couple of things that I'm looking for is information that you all think that I've missed. And then also, what's the best way of approaching it? We obviously have a lot of these identified and listed on the inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Very few of them are listed on the National Register, though.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've highlighted the two churches that I saw that were not on the not on the inventory right now. And that's Chantilly Baptist Church and the Mount Olive Baptist Church.
And that's Mount Olive in Centerville?
I'd have to go and look at her because I got this information. Mount Olive was identified by Ramona Carroll. So I'd have to go back and see where Mount Olive, where she has it located. And then the other resource that I think is often footnoted, but has been brought to light recently, it's all of these cemeteries that are associated with the churches.
Yes. That's another of Mary's list.
Yep. There's a whole statewide initiative to recognize African American cemeteries.
Mhm.
And I think that's another thing that we ought to be thinking about is, either I have to look into the what the African American Cemetery Initiative is statewide, but do we
It's-
identify that? Oh, go ahead, Phyllis. Do you know?
It's 800 and, I want to say 890 some $1,000 that was set aside to identify African American cemeteries that were sort of abandoned in the state. Right now, Loudoun County has received money for, I think it's 2 cemeteries. One of them is the cemetery that Pastor Michelle Thomas, the president of the NAACP in Loudoun, her son, who was drowned in a swimming accident last summer, is buried in that cemetery. But she actually worked with developers because they were getting ready to build houses on that property where the cemetery is. And she worked with them to carve that cemetery out. The cemetery is actually now deeded to her. And it's over 150 years old. But the other cemetery that's received money is in the city of Richmond.
Oh, right.
And Delegate Dolores McQuinn is sort of overseeing the distribution of those funds.
So we seem to know at least the cemeteries that are associated with churches. And of course, Mary's list will probably identify cemeteries that are not on this list.
Right.
But
Mary has churches and individual properties, yeah.
Is that something that we ought to consider for our survey? Is the identification of African American cemeteries? What do you think, Phyllis?
I think so.
Ann and Esther, are you thinking?
Yes, family cemeteries became important.
Thank you. Okay. So I should talk to Mary.
She has also included that list as one of the lists that she's just sent to me.
Okay.
So the funds that are provided by the state, what specifics go with that? What are they actually for?
It's for upkeep of those cemeteries, to identify them, to actually have them cleaned up, and then to do a perpetual care.
Okay, good.
Okay. So maybe in our survey, we can do the identification and the geolocating, like actually mapping, and the next step or the next recommendation from our report could be applying for funds for the African American statewide initiative, cemetery initiative.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I did. Yeah, cemeteries was something that I kept seeing as, it's not a footnote, but it's like at church and cemetery, and I thought, well, so, they're an important resource unto themselves.
Yes.
Oh, could somebody answer this question for me? Is Flores Presbyterian an African American church?
I don't think so. I'll double check, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I know that that area, Flores had an African American community, but I didn't. Yeah, I didn't know if that was specifically. I included it just in case, but I do have that question mark, and it's highlighted.
Right. I think the only church that's in that area is the Pleasant not Pleasant, Mount Pleasant.
Mount Pleasant.
And I hope that's the one that's listed here. What's the question mark about demolished?
It, so I'm not sure, was the original church demolished? Is the church that's standing there the original church or?
No.
Okay.
No, it moved to that location.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, is the cemetery with the original location? Perhaps.
So all of these questions I think we need answered, right? I don't know.
Okay.
Esther, where is that located?
The Mount Pleasant is off of Centerville and just a couple of miles south of the tollway.
Okay.
It's squeezed in an area that's industrial. It's really hard to explain there. But I can call and go over there and figure that out.
And then the next one down here on the just under that is Mount Vernon, which I'm back and forth on this one. It was identified in historic sites significant to the Black community, which was a Virginia Room resource. And again, when I looked at this, I wasn't looking at it with the from the perspective of doing a survey, but I jotted a note down to include it. But I'm not sure I'm not sure that there's anything to benefit by putting it in our survey. The big names, right? The Sully, Gunston Hall, Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all included because of their slavery history. And it was interesting that in February for Black History Month, Visit Fairfax listed them as one of the museums or places to go for African American history.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to take them out. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So just starting from, I'm going to go back up to the top. Bethlehem Baptist in Gum Springs, that's on the inventory. Cartersville Baptist, again on the inventory. In Chantilly Baptist. It looks like that's not the original church that's there. It looks like there's a replacement church, but there is a cemetery there that's identified. Right. Clifton Primitive Baptist is on the National Register. The First Baptist Church of Chesterbrook is on the inventory. And Esther, you probably know about this one, the First Baptist Church of Vienna.
Absolutely.
Flores is still a question mark. We need to figure out if that has African American associations. The James Lee School. So Phyllis, you could answer this question. The Laurel Grove Baptist Church. The church is gone, correct?
Right.
Okay. But the school remains.
Right, because we're next door. The property was divided so that there's a half acre for the church, which includes the cemetery, and then there's a half acre where the school is. But the church was destroyed by fire in 2004, and they say they are going to rebuild.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm specifically that it wasn't the same building, but it's not.
No, what's there is the basement foundation of the church, and that basement is covered with a tarp, and it's all fenced in with a chain link fence because of the security for the site.
Got it. Do you know if they filled the basement with like stone
No.
or anything? Okay.
No,
Bill.
no, nothing has been done.
Okay.
Cemetery's right next to it.
It's
Yeah.
right behind it, yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
And the cemetery, for the most part, is being kept by the office park, which surrounds it.
So they're
The
doing
church, the church,
Yep.
the church is still functioning with a small group of membership, but there are times that they don't have someone taking care of the cemetery. So the office park landscaping people take care of it if they see that the church has not done it.
So that would be a candidate for the state fund under the initiative.
Yes and no.
Oh, okay.
And I say that because I've had a discussion with Delegate McQuinn about that, and it really needs to come from the church because they own the property and are functioning in terms of still meeting. They're actually meeting in the Franconia Government Center when prior to COVID. So it's kind of, it's really a question mark whether they will qualify since they're still an existing church and not an abandoned site.
I see. So the cemetery funds are for abandoned cemeteries.
For the most part, yes.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. So that might be something that we ask for is to determine ownership of the cemeteries.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Mary may know on most of them.
Right. Yeah. I think I need to talk to Mary soon. Monday.
Yeah, because they're very organized and they have a database with all of those.
Right. Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, they can actually tell you in a lot of cases, they can actually tell you the names of the people buried in the cemetery.
Yeah. No, a conversation with Mary is definitely warranted. Cemeteries were just something that it occurred to me as I was making this list, and I kept typing and cemetery. And I thought, well, there's a whole initiative here. They're their own kind of resource. They're not a building, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was sort of an afterthought, but I think it might become important.
Before we go further, Phyllis, First Baptist of Merrifield,
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't that be on this list for
Yes.
our purposes?
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if they had a cemetery.
I don't know.
But the church
But
is
I can-
still there.
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
I can find out about whether they have a cemetery.
First Baptist of Vienna had 2 or 3 at one time. There is one that's still in operation. So Mary would probably have that on her list, but there were 2 others.
Okay. Cemeteries.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank
So
you.
what's the church? Esther.
Go ahead, Ann.
Esther. I
Yes.
was asking, what is her church name? I thought yours was First Baptist of Vienna.
The one that I'm adding is First Baptist of Merrifield.
Millersville?
Merrifield.
Maryfield.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There,
That one is near, it's off of Gallus Road.
Right.
okay. There is that cemetery off of 29 and Gallows, right there at the corner. There's like a community center, and then there's a cemetery right there. I wonder if that's an associated resource. I think
At 29 in Gallus.
yeah. On the north side, northeast corner, across from where the auto body shop used to be. You know where I'm talking about?
I'll check that out.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
Okay, moving on. Ready?
Okay.
Okay, so the James Lee School.
That's the
That's
recreation center. Yeah.
Yep. Little Zion Baptist Church and Cemetery. Now, Mary got a hold of me recently, and she told me that Little Zion Church is no longer Little Zion Church, and she wanted to know whether we needed to rename it for the inventory purposes.
It's an Asian group that is in there, but I thought the property was still owned by
Okay.
Little Zion Church.
Okay.
Where do they meet, Phyllis?
Great. Well, they split, and Greater Little Zion is the one that's near the Penn Center. It's on Zion Drive, rather than the one that Denise is looking at is on Burke Lake Road.
Okay.
It's a little white frame church that's on Burke Lake Road, but the new church is on Zion Drive.
So the church technically still exists.
Yes, the building is there, but that building is being rented by an Asian group.
I was speaking of the congregation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
They just changed the name to Greater Zion.
Greater Little Zion, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was Mary's point, Esther. When she called me, she was saying that the congregation still exists and they've built a new building. And is it confusing to have two buildings named the same thing? And I told her I would bring it up with the inventory committee, but I think the historic name of the building is what the inventory ought to refer to it as.
Right.
Okay.
But
Well,
we should still recognize the congregation, don't you think, Phyllis?
Yes. And that's been it's been an issue, and I don't know how it got resolved, but I know that some people left and went someplace else just to start a church.
In all the churches, some people leave.
yeah.
But if the congregation is still together, even though they put the word greater there, it's still existing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we could, this is Ann. If I might make a suggestion, we can check with the Northern Virginia Baptist Association to find out what it's called.
Well, the names we actually know. It's who now owns the little frame church that's on Burke Lake Road. And the question is, do Greater Little Zion, the people that are on Zion Drive, are they the legal owners of the little frame church that's on Burke Lake Road? But either way, it's Little Zion Baptist is that little frame church.
Yeah, and I don't think we'd want to change the name, even though there's another
Yeah, no.
group, meeting in it, because I think it's the historic name that
Right.
we're recognizing. Right.
Well, it's been a big issue, and those who know Cora Foley,
Oh, yeah.
Cora's been advocating for Greater Little Zion for a number of years now.
Okay.
There are interviews with the older members, and there was a county marker that was supposed to be done, and so Cora is still involved in getting the recognition for the.
Okay, we don't want to tangle with her again. She's not to be contacted.
She's still out there.
I know, I get emails sometimes, but she
Yes.
causes a lot of confusion in the county.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So we'll look into it.
Okay. Well, the other thing that Mary brought up is that the cemetery that's associated with the church is called the Pearson Cemetery, which is not to be confused with the Pearson Family Cemetery.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah, Mary's been very involved in that.
okay. I'm going to add Pearson Cemetery then. This sounds it sounds very convoluted, not to be confused with.
Sometimes it happens.
Yeah. For
Are
people,
you
right?
spelling that Pearson?
I think I just misspelled it, Esther. I'll go back it up and change it. Pearson. Is that right?
Well, I'm asking.
Oh, Mary, this was a phone call, so
I think it is.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
I think it is Pear.
Yeah, I think it is correct.
Okay.
Okay. The Luther Jackson School, which was that the first African American
High
is it
school.
residential? High school, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Make a note. Publicly funded county.
Yes,
Okay.
built in the 1950s.
Okay. And then this Mount Olive Baptist
And
Church. and of course,
that does have a county marker.
the Luther Jackson does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's on the inventory as well, which is good. Phyllis, you asked me. I'm sorry.
Which Mount Olive is that? Where is
Right.
that?
I was going to ask. Phyllis asked me if that was the Mount Olive Baptist Church in someplace, and I can't remember what location you asked.
Centerville.
Centerville. Okay. We'll look. No, it is ER, right? No. it's
Yeah,
RE.
we need to find out where they moved from because they're in a new building.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering.
They're in a new building.
Okay.
I can call them.
Thank you, Esther. That would be great.
Sure.
Oh, and then we have the Mount Pleasant Baptist Church and Cemetery, which we were just talking about.
Is that the one on Lincoln Road?
No. The one in Chantilly area.
Chantilly. Okay, I put.
Okay, so, but there's a
Find
Mount
out.
Pleasant.
Well, it's in
There's
the
a Mount-
Flores area, really. It's in Flores.
Okay, but there's a Mount Pleasant Baptist Church in the Lincoln Road.
Oh, okay.
That
And
needs to be added.
And
Yeah.
that has a historical marker that the county just did some years ago, a few years
Right.
ago.
is it Baptist, Phyllis?
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
it's in Mason District.
There's a marker,
I
but it's
know
not.
about it.
Well, here we go ahead. I'm sorry.
I know about it, but I'm also reading it from Mary's list that she sent.
Okay.
Mary has, Mary did the marker list. So it says Mount Pleasant Baptist Church and Cemetery, Lincolnville Road, Mason District. But we did go there and unveil that marker. So,
Right.
That's about 7 or 8 years ago. So,
okay, I knew it was some years ago.
yeah, it wasn't too long after we lived here. It was about 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 8 years ago.
So really, go ahead. I'm sorry.
When we talk about Mount Pleasant, we have to tell where it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're adding the
Yes.
Lincolnville one.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. Just like what I'm doing with the other, like the First Baptist and Shiloh Baptist. There are two, so I'm trying to distinguish between the two. I have to go back and confirm which Mount Baptist church is on the inventory. Is it the one in Florence or is it the one in Laconia? Because I only knew of one. So.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, it has a cemetery associated with it, correct? The one in.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The one in Mason District, yes.
So the next one is Pleasant Grove Methodist and Cemetery. Oh, this has I read about it. It has an African American museum.
That's the McLean one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the museum is in the basement of it. Carol Herrick is working on a marker for that.
Oh, how nice. Okay. And then the Pride of Fairfax, the Oddfellows Halls, and that's the National Register nomination is pending.
Mm-hmm.
The Second Baptist Church, which I don't have a location for.
Is that Falls Church?
It's on the inventory. I have to go back and find the location.
Because there's a Second Baptist that's near James Lee.
Okay.
And there's a Second Baptist in Clifton.
Well, there's several Second Baptists, but are we
So
talking?
the Second
historical?
Baptist one in Clifton is one that was established in 1800.
That probably sounds right for historic. The inventory. So this came from the inventory.
And it's
'Cause there's one
up
in
the street
Vienna.
from, yeah. But this one in Clifton is up the street from the Primitive Baptist Church.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's actually a functioning, Second Baptist is a functioning church.
All right. So that's another question we need answered.
Now, what did you say about the Primitive Baptists?
The Primitive Baptist in Clifton,
Uh-huh.
that's on the register, but it's a building that's sitting there, and sometimes I think it's owned by the city of
Clifton.
Clifton. So sometimes it's used for weddings.
But it was an African American.
Yes,
Okay, so we need that on the list, right?
Oh, it's here.
it is.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's called Clifton Primitive Baptist. Is
Primitive, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So I was going to say there are several Second Baptists. I know there's one in Vienna, but I'm not sure it's the historical Baptist. I'd have
So
to
it's
check to see when it was established because it came out of First Baptist.
Oh, okay, okay.
So is the Second Baptist in Clifton being added here?
There's a Second Baptist on the list, Ann, but I don't know which one. I don't know which one it's referring to. So I have to go back to the inventory and figure out where it is.
Uh-huh.
But I think your point's well taken. You know, do we add the other Second Baptist? If it's in Clifton, the one that's listed on the inventory, do we add the one that's in Falls Church or Vienna or, you know, wherever?
Yeah.
I think, yes, go ahead.
What Esther said, there are several Second Baptists around. So make sure we don't miss any.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Here, I think I'm just going to add a note to here. Not add if historic. I'm going to put, I'll know what I mean by that. That's just a shorthand.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we have, there are two Shiloh Baptist churches, one original Gunston School and one in Audrick's Corner.
Mhm.
That line up? Okay.
Right.
Yes.
And there's a cemetery with the Audrick's Corner. It's a cemetery next to it.
Thank you.
And the one in Gunston has a cemetery across the street.
Makes perfect sense. Okay. And then the Woodlawn United Methodist Church in Gum Springs, which I was reading about in Ramona Carroll's presentation. It sounds like their original church was demolished and the foundations exist and the cemetery is.
I thought the Methodist Church was next door to Bethlehem, and that building was being rented out to someone else for another church.
Yeah, like St. John's, something. St.
Yeah.
John's. Yeah.
Because the people that went to Woodlawn now go to, they combined with the Methodist Church that's across from historically.
So the congregation moved, the church still exists. It's renamed though, because there's a sign out that says St. John
Right.
something, yeah. But from what I was reading in Ramona's presentation, it sounds like that's not the original church building. And she says that there's a foundation near the cemetery. And I think the cemetery is across the street. Does that sound right? Like north of Pride of Fairfax.
I didn't think there was a cemetery on that side of the street.
This one's a mystery. And it could be that Ramona has the facts wrong. And I'm not positive, although she's very connected with the churches. I've never seen the church foundation. It can't be on the same lot.
That's what I'm thinking. It's not.
Yeah.
there's no space for it.
Right. And unless it's
And I
underneath the
don't-
parking lot.
I don't remember cemeteries for either Bethlehem or Woodlawn. I thought their cemeteries were located someplace else.
So
nearby.
I understand that the Bethlehem Cemetery is either the Coleman or the Snowden Cemetery.
That's what I thought.
Okay. But just piecing together, I think there might have been a cemetery for the Methodist Church. It's on hang on, I'll get my directions straight, northeast corner of the intersection of Fordson and Route 1.
Okay.
I think there might be a water tower there.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
So this one's a bit of a mystery. It's something that I'd like to dive into. And I think honestly the resources in Gum Springs, I think, will be covered by the Gum Springs survey.
Mhm.
So we probably don't have to delve quite as deeply into them with this survey, because Gum Springs should be taken care of by the survey that's happening right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's still I have lots of questions surrounding that one. So.
I may drive by there one day. It's not that far away.
Wait, you're in Clifton. I
know, but I'm in the Franconia area, so it's not that far to drive.
Okay. All right. So these are the communities that were identified in the Heritage Resource Management Plan. That's what that HRMP stands for. And the only one that I found that is listed on the inventory is the Tinner Hill Historic District. So the West End, and it's on that map that I'm going to send you, that picture that we really can't read because it's distorted. But the West End, that appears to be in Alexandria. I don't know if it's familiar to anybody on this call, but it was a freedmen's village.
Yes. It's right on the property line.
Ah, okay. So some of it could be in Fairfax.
Yeah. I can check on that.
The map that I have, as you saw, is pretty grainy and not that great. But so Gum Springs we have under survey. Mount Pleasant. I guess
That's Lincolnia.
Lincolnia, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm also wondering, is this worth these areas? Is there anything left of, buildings? I guess that's what the survey is going to tell us, right?
Yeah, the church is there, and there are some houses around.
Okay.
I would think there may be a couple of properties that they could identify that have the history.
Okay. Bailey's Crossroads?
Yes, that's close to Lincolnia. It was a pretty large size African American community. There's Warner Baptist Church, William Carey School, which I think is now a county recreation center.
Warner, Warner, Warner Baptist Church. Okay. And I'm sorry, could you repeat the name of that's the building?
Lillian Carey was a black school.
Carey.
Curry.
Oh, Curry.
Curry.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. Lincolnville. And then my question is that Cartersville?
Cartersville, what?
It would be like a geographic area, community. Let's see if I can.
Mary has Cartersville listed as on Hunter Mill Road,
That's the Baptist church, right?
That's the church.
Yeah.
but she doesn't have Lincolnville.
So I need to find out where that is.
Yeah. I know I've seen it listed, but she doesn't have it on her list.
So on
We'll have to do some research.
okay, yeah. On the map, I think it is in the Drainsville district, which is why I put the question mark. Was it Cartersville?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll look into that one
Thank you, Esther.
somehow. I'll just go to the church people and ask.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll have the info, that's for sure. Okay, Audrick's Corner, that's one that's pretty well established and identified and established, and
Yes.
I'm confident there's still things there. I think it should be listed on the inventory. I was surprised that it's not, but
Mhm.
Lewinsville,
That's McLean.
yeah.
Um,
Is that where the church is that Carol is working with? Is it the church with the
with the
museum?
museum.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think they're close to each other. Yeah.
And that community would probably include the Shiloh people.
Okay.
Yes.
I think.
Okay. Thank you. Great. And then the map identified Freedman's Village and Falls Church. And I don't know whether that means Falls Church City or whether that's just, the greater Falls Church area.
I think it might be Falls Church City. It would be close to Tinner Hill.
Okay. Yeah.
I can ask Ed Henderson.
He's represents the Tinner Hill
Mm-hmm.
Historical Society. Okay, thank you. Right, and then the rest of them are sort of general locations that, again, were on the map or in a resource from the Virginia Room called Black Settlements in Fairfax County.
Mm-hmm.
So they were either identified through the Heritage Resource Management Plan or in the book. So generally, Vienna, Fairfax, Herndon, Chantilly, Bull Run, Merrifield, Lincolnia, Clifton, and Burke were all identified as having African American communities.
Yes.
Okay. And then I was in a public meeting for Merrifield, and somebody approached me and told me that there was an African American community in Merrifield, and I think they told me the name was Williamsville or Williamsburg or William something. Does that ring any bells?
I think Williamsville does, and I think it's near Fairfax Hospital.
Right, that's what they told me exactly. And I'm guessing that there's a cemetery.
Yes, and Mary, I know the area a little bit, but Mary and these, with the two West Springfield students that we have that are interviewing people who grew up in Fairfax County, one of the people that Mary listed is from that area, Ron Marshall, and the girls are interviewing him.
Oh, fantastic.
Because Mary had talked to him. Mary met him at one of the cemeteries.
Oh.
There are two cemeteries that this person is associated with that Mary has on her list.
Okay.
So I can ask Mary.
I think what I'm going to do, Phyllis, is send Mary this spreadsheet and
Yes.
schedule a conversation with her sometime
Okay.
early next week. But you all are really enlightening me and filling out. I know there are huge holes here, but we don't have to figure this out. All we're trying to do is put together a scope of work so we can turn it over to consultants. And just, I want enough information that it's a productive survey.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then of course, Lincolnia, and then Clifton and Burke. And we've heard from Lynn Garvey Hodge that Clifton, the importance of Clifton. So, yeah.
And Burke is the area where land was taken because they were going to build an airport, and then the airport was built in Dulles. So those people were displaced and never came back.
Boy, is that a story. Okay.
Yeah, that's a story that's kind of across the county.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the only one.
Yes, unfortunately.
It happened when 66 was built. It happened when 495 was built. And these are some of the people that we've included on the list for the West Springfield girls to interview. So they can have a chance to tell their story.
Tell their story, exactly. Nicole ran across impacts from the Dulles Toll Road running in. She ran across some information when she was researching Audrick's Corner for a development review, and and the impact to that community when the Dulles Toll Road came through. It was Dulles Toll Road, right, Nicole? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, although they did a good job and they were able to kind of push off, because they were trying to put an on-ramp basically and take out all of their houses kind of, and they were able to get the on-ramp moved. So, but yeah.
So in the interest of time, I'm going to skip over the persons. But if you all look through that list and have any comments about the people, or have any additional people that you think we need to look into, please do let me know. But I wanted to go through the schools and see if we run through this list, if any of these are still in existence. These all come from Ramona Carroll, and I have no indication that they still are in existence. I know the Gum Springs one is not. And I also
I
know
think
that, go ahead.
I think Laurel Grove is the only one that's
Which
still
one?
standing.
I'm sorry.
Laurel Grove. Yeah, that one I think is the only one that's still standing.
Wasn't
Because for the
Mary,
most part, the county sold them, auctioned them off when they closed or shortly after they closed.
wasn't Mary saying, and again, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to attend that meeting as well as I would have liked to, but during the meeting, the African American Initiative, wasn't Mary saying that there was still a school standing in one of the resources that she was talking about? Does that ring any bells, Phyllis?
I'm looking at this list. I'll check with her because I don't think she has it on what she just sent to me.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'll find out from her. And I'm not sure about the Groveton School.
Vienna Colored School was in First Baptist Church,
Mm-hmm.
which moved to Louise Archer, which is a Fairfax County building now. I mean, Fairfax Public Schools. So the school was established in the church.
Okay, so let me just make
Yeah.
sure I understand what you just said,
Mhm.
Esther. So the Vienna Colored School met in the First Baptist Church in Vienna, right?
That's where it was established. Yes.
Yeah.
And then when you said it moved to Louise Archer, do you mean that the body moved to Louise, like
The school, that school became the students that went to Louise Archer. Louise Archer was a part of that flow of history.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Yeah, they started in the church and then
And
moved out.
moved over
Yeah.
to the Louise Archer Elementary School building.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So Louise Archer, I think, is on my list of people.
Yes, you have it, Louise.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Louise.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And is that still in existence, that building?
Which building?
Louise Archer Elementary School.
Yes, a modern day building.
Not the
mean,
original. Yeah.
The original school is not there. The original church building where the school was established is still
Mhm.
in Vienna. It's owned by somebody else, but it's still in Vienna.
The First Baptist Church of Vienna.
Yes, the original building.
Got it. Okay.
So when I contact the churches that I'm contacting, I will ask them for their history if they have it written up, which I hope
Mhm.
they do.
Yeah.
So it might give us other leads.
Yeah,
Either,
that's true.
either for this project or for the History Commission's project, both.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I just see this as a one piece of the History Commission's project, which is what remains on the landscape, what buildings still stand,
Right.
Mhm.
and to represent that history. So that's the part that I'm trying to get to. Okay, any further thoughts or, remembrances or instructions? I'm going to stop sharing so we can look at each other.
Well, I think this is a good jumping off point.
Yeah, this will reveal a lot of information. It'll be good.
Great. Yep. And anything that you all can do to help. I have until April 2nd. Well, no, let me say this. The grant application is due April 2nd, which means in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be very busy trying to pull the scope of research together. However, as you see, we have a lot of places already identified.
Mm-hmm.
For the churches that are already on the inventory, my first thought was, well, do we, ask for enough information that we can get a preliminary information form written to try to get an eligibility determination for the National Register? I don't know, that's a possibility. It's like an intensive survey. It just means that it's just a higher level of documentation. And then I don't know that the owners want them listed on the National Register.
Yeah.
So there's chasing down that the owner permission and all of that. So I'm not sure that we will be looking further into the places that are already listed on the inventory. I think I'm going to try to turn my attention to the places that have not been recognized.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I think that would be good.
Great. Good. Thank you for confirming that. And then as we talked about the cemeteries, I think that's going to be an important part of that as well. So I just have to figure out how to approach them. I think talking to Mary will be helpful.
Yes, because Mary has done recent surveys, and when I say recent, within the last 10 years, they've added more to the database that she has. So she's got the most update listing of the cemeteries in the county.
It would be good to supplement the Brian Connolly map with the information that Mary has.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just another thought. It's another project.
How many more projects do we need?
There's always another project, Esther.
Denise only has about 5,000 going on right now.
I know, I'm surprised she's standing.
Early. No, well, you all too. I mean, so much of this is driven by the History Commission, and I'm just keeping up. I'm just following along.
Well, I think we're all trying to swim together. Okay.
Yes.
I agree.
Let no woman drown.
Here. Nobody drowning. All right. Well, I think that's it. If I have any follow-up questions, I'm hoping I can feel free to reach out to you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
And if we find any information, can we just shoot it to you in an email?
Please do. Yes. Okay. Anything that you find out, that would be great. And even if it's, let's say after April 2nd, the consultants that if we get the grant and we're able to do the survey, all of this information is going to be helpful to the consultant. So we can, anything that we find out, of course, Phyllis and Mary are in charge of the African American initiative. So they should receive all information, but then anything that we get can be passed along to the consultant for their work. So
I'm just appreciative that any of it's being done. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's well past time, well overdue.
It's a long time coming.
Mhm.
And I'm glad we're looking at it and taking it seriously. All right.
Thanks for letting
Thank
me
you.
sit in and listen. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, Nicole.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day and a great weekend. And Anne, I know you're listening in. I'm going to say goodbye to you as well.
Bye, Ann.
Thanks for your help, everybody.
Thank
Okay,
you. Bye.
Denise, I'll see you at 2:30.
Oh, yes, you will. Get that map.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Phyllis.
All
All
right.
right.
Take
bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.